Wow. First of all, thank you for the invitation and for having me here. I know the privilege of being in this panel. I was just last year having a similar dialogue and participating with a class. So above all things, congratulations to each one of you for this very esteemed award and recognition. We're very excited to be sharing this panel today. Specifically, as Pedro said, right, it's about ConeXión and how do we elevate each other. So that's what we're going to be covering in the next 20 minutes. The way we have set up this panel is that we have about 5-6 questions, and we want to make sure that we hear from all of you. So we're going to be rotating some of these questions. So with that said, the first question that I want to ask, we spend quite a bit of time considering how we can elevate others in our careers and to kind of succeed in the corporate world. And I would like to know for some of the panelists here, who was that person for you? So maybe we can start with you, Kenneth.
Yes. Hey, everyone. ¿Cómo estamos? Yeah, before I start, though, I have to say this. This was not planned. It's awesome to be up here with my co-panelists. But what is more awesome is to look in a room and see a bunch of Latinos and Latinas talking about business, talking about finance, talking about all the things that drive this country. And as a friend in the audience here, Patricia Pacheco, also for Bank of America, likes to say, the new growth machine of this country are the people in this room. So let's just start with give ourselves a round of applause. Yeah. And Pedro, thank you for creating this forum. On the topic of mentoring, I'll go quick here. Look, I think everyone in this room or up here, whatever career success you've had, it's because you've had both mentors and sponsors, right? And that mentor is the sounding board, the person you turn to for questions, right? To pick their brains, if you will. And then the sponsor is the person that's pounding the table. For me, luckily, as a person who came into corporate America 25 years ago, I've been on Wall Street for 25 years, I met a person who was not Latino or Latina, who was a white male, and took a vested interest in me. And that was the person that told me everything about what I needed to do. How to dress, important. How to carry yourself, how to communicate. But in addition to that, along the way, how to run a business, how to lead people, how to set a strategy to execute on it, right? And when I think back, I wouldn't be sitting up here, frankly. There was the person, by the way, who actually said to me, young man, if you ever want to run a company, at least in corporate America, you need to go get an MBA. And that's how I am a part of the Alumni Society, because of my business school. So it was having the opportunity to run into someone that took that vested interest in me. And so I would just say, if there's always someone that we can always spend, as one of our old professors, I have a classmate here in the room, used to say to us, you should have 5 minutes for everyone. Everyone can use 5 minutes. Yeah. And it's the 5 minutes to identify in your respective businesses who that person is going to be, who that next person is going to be, who you're not only going to be their mentor, but you're going to be their sponsor, because we here in this room are the people that are in charge of driving our community forward, and it's creating that next generation of leaders within our community.
Very insightful. How about you, Norma? Can we hear from you?
Yeah. Well, what a great answer. I completely agree. We're definitely here because of not only mentors, but also sponsors. It's going to be a little bit cliche, but I think a lot about my mom. I think a lot about her as a woman of her time, and with the limited opportunities that she had, and how much she grabbed onto those opportunities and always made the best for everything. So I always like to think that if my mom had had the opportunities that I've had, that she'd be president of the United States, you know what I mean? Like, I always think that she's always been very clear about, life doesn't owe you anything. Life doesn't happen to you, you make it happen. And so I think that those kind of big life lessons always had a big impact on me, but particularly that about making the best with basically las cartas que te jugó la vida, right? Like, whatever hand you have with you, you got to make the best for it. And don't take it for granted. And I think that it's always that I always look back and, she and I speak a lot. I always call it like my strategist now that I'm a CEO. But really is that big life lesson, making the best with what you have. las cartas que te jugó la vida, and just like play your best hand.
Find your own path. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on here, what active roles have you taken or steps to elevate others, kind of in your career as well? So kind of involvement in other organizations or, through your company or, kind of other forums as well. So maybe with that, Rachel, let's start with you.
Sure. So for me, obviously, hi everyone, hola, soy Rachel. I'm a general partner of Red Bike Capital, which is an early stage VC fund. I think that, I live within the world of technology and venture. I spent 15 years in corporate. Then I co-founded an e-commerce startup that was backed by Y Combinator. I am one of 90 Latinas that's ever raised over $1 million. Wow. And I'm very aware of that. Wow. And now that I'm a venture capitalist, I am one of 0.1% of venture capitalists. Mm. And so I think a lot about, the role that I play. I think a lot about the fact that it's really hard to be what you don't see. I think it's really important to create pathways. And so I think a lot about how do I maximize my impact? How do I catalyze that impact? So for me, it starts with what I do in my everyday job. So what I do as a venture capitalist, the opportunities that I give founders, the help. And it's obviously the founders that we invest in, but just overall how I build community. We really think about community-first approach. I think more formally, I also take on board responsibilities. So I just joined the board of Latinas in Tech, which is an amazing organization. It's 27,000 Latinas working in technology. And it's really about getting Latinas that are kind of stuck at entry level and middle level. How do we get more Latinas into management? So that's incredibly important for me personally. And then, I think that to your point about like the cards that are dealt with you, like if I have an opportunity to take the podium and speak about my opportunities, my experiences, and how can I inspire others, I take it, right? I think it is so important to be visible, to realize that we're incredibly lucky, that the people sitting in this room are incredibly rare, and how do we create more? It's something that I really think about.
Wonderful, I like that, especially the aspect about you now being involved in the board of Latinas in Technology. That's wonderful. And Megan, how about you? Any thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, no, I thought that was perfectly said. The thing that I would add is on top of being visible is being accessible. Yeah. And I think for a lot of us, if we are the onlys at organizations, accessibility gets harder as you get more senior, right? And so what pathways are you building to connect with more junior folks, people at different title levels, people across the company? And so I know a lot of us are part of firm-wide, Latino networks at our organizations, but also thinking about what kind of community impact you can be involved in, because that's where you kind of get to the more junior organizations. So we have something called Community Teamworks at Goldman Sachs that's anywhere from interns to first-year analysts, fresh out of college. And I sign up for those activities because, first of all, being accessible is important to make sure that people know they can find mentorship and sponsorship in me, but quite frankly, keeping us grounded. I don't know, maybe it's just a Dominican thing, but like we don't tend to stay super grounded, especially as we get more senior, or especially as we get more high profile. And so really being able to talk to people on a level where there's candor and engagement and transparency in terms of what Goldman is getting right, but most importantly, what it's getting wrong, is really important to me. And so think about those, speaking of the concept of ConeXiones, what are those small engagements, micro moments that you have with people that can be incredibly impactful, and keep you aware of like what is truly the issues that are on the ground at your organizations and how you can be impactful. Board engagement is super, super important. And thinking about that broadly, I know a lot of us leverage our boards for corporate and client engagement. If you can add on to that, because I think that's super important, the commerciality of what we do, but thinking about what you can do in terms of community investment too. So I sit on the board of the West Side Campaign Against Hunger. It's incredibly important to me as a person where food wasn't always accessible growing up for me. Hunger is one of those issues that's a non-starter. No one should go hungry in the United States. that's a great way to stay grounded and connect with people as well.
Wonderful. And maybe let's switch gears a little bit and talk about culture, right? And I think that we heard in one of the prior talks here today about how do we stay true to our values, our identity, right? So maybe, Sylvia, let's start with you. How have you stayed connected with your culture, your values, as you progress in your career?
Oh, hola familia. So thank you for having us, and I'm so excited. Gracias. Oh gosh, para mí, I don't think I could separate the two. It is the engine of who, it's at the core of who I am. One of my favorite words is raíces, roots. And I remember for the first time hearing that the Mixteca, the idea or the word for happiness was to be grounded, because we're all sort of going around in the world without something to anchor us. And when something anchors us, like raíces, which is cultura, familia, comunidad, that is happiness. Yeah. So for me, I don't separate the two. And I've been very fortunate that in my life, I have strived to always be integrated in my values and my purpose, and that has carried on into my professional career. I grew up, I'm from Guadalajara, Jalisco, came to the States when I was 6 years old. I grew up undocumented in LA, in East LA, and I grew up undocumented during the time of Pete Wilson. So one thing that shaped everything for me was watching the way we were spoken about, how we were projected as a people, as a community. And even at a very early age, at 11 years old, I said, that's it, right there. That's what I'm gonna change. And so it just so happens that the universe listens, and here I am today, and I've spent 20 years in media, making the media ecosystem a lot more equitable and helping us build representation for Latinos that is worthy of us. I can't imagine my culture not driving that success, because being a Latina is my superpower.
Yeah, I love it. Right, Alberto, how about you?
Thank you. And hello, everyone. Well, listen, for me, my Hispanic identity, my Colombian identity is absolutely central to what I do every day.
He said Colombia.
What I wanted to say is that it actually has not been the case always. I think when I began my career, I was for the first time in corporate America. I grew up in Colombia. I was trying to hide that. I was trying to blend in. I was trying to understand the sports jokes that I didn't get. About soccer. So that was me growing up. But the Alberto of today, whatever success I have had, has resulted in me telling everyone in the first 5 minutes that I am from Colombia. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. There's nothing else here. So I think for me, what that means is empathy. What that means is really making my interactions with other people less transactional, making my interactions with other people about the human connection. Like you just said, that's our superpower. There are many generalizations about cultures and what people do and don't do, but I do think that Hispanics have this unique ability to connect at a human level with others, and that is very effective in a corporate environment. So that's my identity.
Yeah, really well said. So that's a good segue. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, now if we reflect a little bit back, your careers, experiences that you have gone through, kind of talking to your younger self, 15 years back, you guys share a little bit of perspective. What would you have done differently in the corporate world or advancing your career? And maybe Kenneth, we start with you.
I don't have superpowers. As I look back on my 25 years, I think the first piece is I wish I had enjoyed the journey more. Because you're head down as a Latino. I remember 25 years ago coming out to Wall Street, looking to my left and my right. Trust me, I didn't see any. I was of a class of 35 people, interns. I was the only Latino. It was myself and an African-American woman, and that was it. I think that's a chip on the shoulder that you keep driving with, right? Like, hey, I gotta push, I gotta push. So you get these achievements throughout your career and you never enjoy them. As you get older, you look back and you go, hey, I wish I had done that. That's one thing. The second thing, and it's not that I wish I had done different, I think sometimes your emotion, like what makes us great as a people is our passion.
Yeah.
In corporate America, sometimes passion is, it's not good. So there's got to be a way where you calibrate that, right? So that you bring that passion, you bring the other PhD. She has a PhD, by the way, in economics from Yale. Okay? Yeah, exactly. Yes. But it's not bringing that PhD, it's bringing your other PhD. It's bringing your passion, your heart, and your drive. That's what makes our community so different and so special, but doing it in a way where you calibrate that. Where you calibrate that successfully in corporate America, where it is not perceived as emotions. It's just good, constructive passion. So enjoy the journey, right? Continue to bring your PhD, and I wish I had brought my PhD in a calibrated way. I didn't. Hence why that sponsor pounding the table was so important. And then as you get older, I'm 46 now, I turn around and I go, all right, like it's just a different time of the journey now. So I think that's things as I look back to myself, that's what probably.
Yeah, wonderful. I love the PhD reference here. By the way, hopefully we're transcribing this, and because I think this is material to write a book later on. So I don't know if we're going to get notes or something like that, but super insightful dialogue. Megan, how about you? Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, as first generation college student, I felt an enormous burden. And so not even just the joy piece, but what the expectations were, for my family, especially from, my parents, my grandparents. And so I wish I had been just a little bit more bold while remaining respectful, because we know that's very important in Latino communities, is pushing the boundaries a little bit. Like I didn't study abroad when I was at Yale. During the summers, I didn't take certain internships because I wanted to be at home and to be helpful. I didn't pursue, sticking out another year to get, a joint MBA or to think about a master's because I didn't want to take on more debt or more burden or be farther away from my family. And so for the young people in the audience or the young people listening, there's a fine balance because of course you want to meet expectations and make your family proud, but not to the detriment of an expansion of opportunities that you could get. I mean, a lot of us went to amazing schools. I definitely did not get out of Yale the same as many of my white counterparts did. That's just a fact. Yeah. In terms of what they were doing during their summers, what internships they had throughout the year, what networking opportunities they engaged in. I was working 2 full-time jobs when I was at Yale. I didn't have all that free time to expand and explore. And so what I say to all young people is to make sure that you are being quite respectful, but also very open with your family members about your expectations of your future too. It's certainly about legacy, but it's not just about your family. And so I would say that that's something, and I hate the younger self because I'm young, guys. I would say that's something that I probably regretted and would have told my younger self is to push more and to explore more opportunities. Yeah.
All right. And maybe, Alberto, if you can also share some of your perspective as well.
Absolutely. So very quickly, I think I would worry a lot less. I worry too much. And I feel like I was overcompensating for what I thought I perceived were these big weaknesses. My accent, the fact that I didn't understand many things that were going on in the American culture, the communication skills of my peers, of my American peers that I felt I didn't have. So I was the more prepared one. I was the one spending time on the weekend so that I had all the information. So I actually think not all of that was necessary, and people would have seen the talent or whatever, the hard work, regardless. So I would worry less.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Worry less. Yeah, makes sense. And enjoy life, we heard as well. So, and now moving into probably my favorite question, which is going to be insightful here. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, thinking 10, 15 years from now, what do you want to do more of, and what sort of like your call to action, personal call to action, and the things that you're driving or that you aspire to drive in the following years to come. So let's start maybe with Sylvia.
Okay. Oh gosh, I love looking forward. I think what excites me is where we are right now as Latinos. It's a really critical and special time, right? We are not the present, we're the present and the future of this country. We're the economic engine, we're the demographic engine. It's inevitable that those of us that feel like we've been first, ones, and onlys, that we will see a generation feel differently. And that is so cool and so exciting for me. And what I'd love to be doing is to be at a point in my life where I can think about maybe something like becoming a master coach. I think there are only like 100,000 in the world or less. And I would really want to be like the best coach, just dedicated to working with Latinos and Latinas about to enter C-suite and help change the world one executive at a time. Because I think in 10 years more than ever, we're going to need that because there's going to be so many more of us in positions of power.
Wonderful. I already have my professional coach, so I know where to go. And Rachel, how about you?
So I love your theme about demographic shift. And I mean, to me, that study that just came out, 1 in 4 American children is Latino. Like Latinos are the future. I think of my own kids. When I think of 10 years from now, hopefully there has already been a Latino president or there is a Latino president. I think it's really important to see Latinos more engaged, more vocal. So I'm really excited about that. Professionally, I think about the firm that I'm building. You know, this is Fund 1. This is just the start. We're just getting started with Red Bike. And I hope that 10 years from now, we will have an institution. We will have multiple funds. We will have people working, hopefully lots of Latino unicorns. You know, I really think about building a permanent fixture in the tech ecosystem and how much diversity can benefit. I think it's good for tech, it's good for returns, and so that's really my mission. I want to be the VC fund that, you know, Rachel as a young founder Latina never saw. So that's really what I'm hoping for.
Wow, excited. And how about you, Norma?
Well, so I started my company 2 years ago. We are seeking venture capital. Less than 2% of women receive venture capital. It's much, much less for Latina women. I'm not even going to go into the statistics. You know them pretty well. But I do, so I'm going to start with where I see myself, right? It's a personal journey. And so I spent, like many of you, and I think like in the stories that I heard, a lot of it was like earning our keep, right? Like why are we here and like really earning that moment? And so I look back and I spent my 20s, like many of you, not really enjoying the moment and going after those stamps as hard as I could. I did an undergrad in mathematics and economics. I did my first master's at Duke in economics, my second master's in public health in Spain as a Rotary Ambassadorial Scholar in Pompeu Fabra, a PhD in economics from Yale, first faculty appointment in a medical school here at Mount Sinai, the Atkins School of Medical at Mount Sinai. I was Senior Director of Applied Research and Data Analytics at the American Hospital Association, managing analytics for 2,600 hospitals. I managed budgets in the millions of dollars. This is not to say, listen, we gotta own our successes, right?
Bank of America wants to hire you, okay?
You're
on the spot.
But hold on, when I look at those times, and a friend told it to me recently, and it's so true, I was after validation. Like I really wanted those stamps, I really wanted that success. The highest name or reputation that I'm affiliated for the last 2 years is my own. Beautiful. Starting my company.
Wonderful.
And so
10 years from now, it's Series C, Series what, like
so in 10 years,
IPO?
I want to, you know, my name to
You can
be
be the Latino
that,
unicorn.
to be that stamp that I felt so far during my 20s. You know, now the next stamp should be my own name. So that's what I want in the next 10 years. That I want.
Super excited. Wow. So listen, we're at time here. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this session as much as I did. Learn a lot. Should be taking notes rather, to be honest. A lot of good quotes that we're going to be using in the future. So with that, congrats again, to all the honorees for this year's class. And I think that at this point, Natalia, I hand it over back to you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.